The alarm's going off, man. Stop hitting snooze. I need you. If you're looking to feel like warm and fuzzy inside, like I'm your guy. So they're in my top 20 EHL teams for sure. There's emotion, there's hatred. This is not like a very friendly series. It's like SpongeBob when he's got like the napkin and like the potato chip. Like that's how I feel. Listen, Colson, I didn't have fun. Everything in my body hurts right now. The team that has the lead in the second period is just not going to win that game. There's no need for air quotes. He's tardy all the time. It's the American thing to do. I was alive, just not buried. No, don't get pucks deep. Hang on to the puck. Pass the puck. Shoot the puck. Are we live? Are we live? We're having a good time. JKP, baby. JKP.
Welcome to another installment of our Coaches Summer Series edition of the E-Show podcast. Today, we have one of the OGs here of the EHL, Chris Cerrella of the New Hampshire Avalanche. Thank you for being here with us today, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Jake.
We want to start this conversation off with the thing the Avalanche are the best at this level, and that's leading the way in college commitments. So with a big part of junior hockey over the past, year being how much more competitive the spots are at the D3 level, how did the Avalanche this year continue to separate their guys from the pack and move them on?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, first of all, it's on the players, right? The players have to come in every day and work hard and develop and be good humans, right? And so first off, the players do a lot of the work. But, in terms of the coaching aspect, I've been doing this for a long time now, 21 years. And I do a lot of work for the guys. There's a lot of phone calls and text messages, emails. It's a lot. It's setting up visits and things like we do visits in the off season as well. So we try to continuously get our players in front of the college guys, no matter what it takes. So, we're very fortunate. It's not easy, but the tradition stays alive, and it's getting harder and harder too. So, we got Ethan Audie coming back, who's already committed. We got some guys that have already been on visits and some guys who have offers already as well going into this season. So we're very excited about that. But it takes a lot of work, and a lot of it is on them, who they are as people and how they perform.
And so have you noticed any shift in what the players need to do, now versus a little while ago to get themselves, recruited for the college level?
Yeah, I mean, they have to contact the schools even more so than ever, right? It can't just be the coaches. The college coaches want to hear from the players as well. So, I think that's a big thing is, show them who you are, reach out to them too. So, we're very big advocates of that. And the other thing too is respond, right? Communication is key. You hear it all the time. We hear it all the time as junior coaches from college coaches saying, "Oh, your player never called me back, never texted me back." The way we look at things is we look at it an interesting way. If you don't have a college commitment, you're unemployed. And a college coach is calling you to offer you a job interview. If you're unemployed, do you not take that job interview or do you? Right? So that's kind of the way we look. Do you want to stay unemployed or you don't want to have a job? So that's kind of the way we tell our guys is make sure you contact everybody back because every lead can turn into something.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned obviously the work that you guys as a staff put in. So do you think the increased competition and things like the CHL has made competing for spots, made more of a role for a coach or less of a role for a coach and more of it on the player with the increased competition?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it's definitely going to be an interesting couple of years to see where it all falls. But, I think it lands on both. Obviously, the coaches have their responsibilities and reaching out to coaches and communicating and doing what they need to do for their players. And then also the players have to be at the top of their game more so than ever. They have to separate themselves from the pack, right? And that's it can't be just, oh, I have skill or, oh, I work hard anymore. Now it has to be something more complete. So, you got to keep your players interested. You got to keep them tuned in and you got to keep developing them. So I think it falls on both player and coach for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I talk to guys both on your team and outside the league, they obviously applaud and, looking all at the commitment numbers each year from the Avalanche. They're always in the high teens. And when you look at the guys that you have returning, right, big names from last year's league, Ben Carfora, Danny Cerrella was one of the best players in the postseason. Ryan O'Leary jumped on for you guys at the end of the 23-24 season. All those guys probably could have dipped their toes elsewhere, seen what other opportunities, but they're all coming back. So for you, are you using that as evidence that the Avalanche model, the formula is working and that these guys are trusting the process?
Yeah, I mean, I just tell players all the time, don't label chase, right? Go where you're comfortable, go where you're gonna play minutes and things like that. All these leagues are all good for their own purposes, right? And if you're somewhere and you're comfortable and you're playing and you enjoy it and you're getting some kind of interest, then just stay. There's too much label chasing in junior hockey right now, I believe. I think players are, they're awed by what league they're playing in. The leagues really don't matter. If you're a good player, they're going to find you, and that goes for every level, even Division One, right? So if you're good, they'll find you. So that's what I tell our guys, and our guys seem to believe in our process. We've retained just about all our returners, but maybe one or two that kind of have decided to go off to play club hockey at different schools, which is also a tremendous opportunity for them. But we retained all our returners, so that's a good thing. That means we're doing things the right way. When you have player retention and family retention that means you're doing things the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of this is about trust, especially in this era with so many teams and so many people being in players' ear. And a big part of trust has to do with the premier level in this league too, and to know that guys believe that they have the opportunity to get called up. So in your building this past season, Jake Hines played Premier, pretty much 1.5 seasons of Premier. Ryan Dan, a two-time All-Star straight from the Premier to an All-Star game. Alex Gerard finished a year in the EHL Premier after getting called up. AJ Gazzardi, another year and a half guy. Ryan Johnson definitely paid his dues in the Premier. All those guys moving on to college hockey. So at Hooksett in the ice, then what are guys doing every day at the Premier level to make sure they're ready for the jump to EHL and then eventually NCAA?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about our program is like our locker rooms for EHL and EHL Premier in the same area. They're next door to each other. So we share the same space. We do everything the same. Our practice plans are identical. Obviously, Coach Borden not only is on my bench with the EHL, but he's also the head coach of the Premier team. So there's a lot of similarities. So we try to keep them as one big family for start. But the great thing is we also practice back to back. Our EHL team doesn't practice at 9 a.m. and then our Premier practices at 6 p.m. where they don't get to interact at all with each other. So we do our practices back to back. That this way, if I want to have a Premier kid practice with our EHL team, he practices twice that day. So talk about ultimate development, where they're not only practicing above their level with players that are maybe college committed kids or whatever on our EHL ice, but then they're practicing with their Premier teammates as well. So it gives us kind of that extra advantage, if you will. And this year, I think we had 14 different kids practice. 11 different kids played games. We even called up kids for playoffs this year, and Kurt Mauser, Ryan Johnson, and some other guys who got called up for playoffs as well. Which we could have left them on the Premier team, obviously, but we felt that it was something better for them it's better for their development to get called up at that point.
And do you think it's more important now for teams to utilize the EHLP level, for recruiting just because of how many guys are off chasing other things?
Oh, 100%. We elevate guys. If you look at our college commitments, I think we're at 138 in our 7 seasons or 8 seasons, whatever it is. And I think the number is like 34 or 35 of those players came from our Premier team.
Yeah.
So I think it's huge to develop from within. Now, you're not going to fill your whole team that way. That's just not going to it's just not going to happen, right? But every year, if you can get 5 or 6, 7 guys to move up from EHL Premier to EHL, then you've done your job as an organization, I think.
Agreed, 100%. And shifting focus to the on-ice side of the season, another bid to the Frozen Finals for the Avalanche. Tough ending in overtime, but how do you balance the pride that you take in the year, all the accomplishments, the path to getting there, beating the #1 team in the league, and obviously the commitment numbers with a disappointing end in 3 games there?
Yeah, I mean, when you get to that point, every team is really, really good. That's the one thing about our league is there's it's good from top to bottom. So, for us to even get there year after year, it has been amazing. We're very fortunate. The 87s did a great job. They're well coached, and they had a great team, as well as you talk about the number one team in our league, the Walpole Express. Nick Cota there does a fantastic job, always has good teams. Game one, the score definitely didn't go their way, but they played very hard, very well. And game two, we squeaked out game two there. So, I think once you get to that point, every team is good. And we did battle. We didn't lose a lot during the season, so we didn't face a whole lot of adversity. So when we got into the finals, our backs were against the wall there against New Jersey, and I think that we played well, but not well enough to win. And what comes down to it, at that point, you just have to almost play perfect, and that's hard. That's definitely hard. But I'm very proud. I mean, between the commitments, especially in this year where there was a lot of adversity in the college commitment world, to get the number that we got and have kids committing early instead of in June, March, April, and May. I think that I'm very proud how our organization continues to grow and continues to gain speed in the right direction.
Definitely. And part of that path was, to getting there was defeating the Express, like you mentioned. We talked a little bit about this in before the interview started, that you guys were jockeying for that number one spot all season long. Came down to the very last game, the very last day, which was insane. The Express did take that one. You guys got your revenge in 2 games at Plymouth State. So, I know you said you don't love the word, but did a little bit of a rivalry develop, more so between those two teams this year?
Yeah, I think that, we look at them as direct competition. Maybe not in the recruiting world, because we all have our different kind of methods in recruiting players, but in the league world, Walpole's definitely one of those teams that we consider a big competition. Even though they're not in our division, I think that they've become our big, and Nick Coder and I are friends and all. So we get intense, the players get intense. But I think, in Philly, their whole team was standing around hoping we lost that one game, and they were banging on the glass when we did, and things like that. And I think that kind of fueled our guys saying, wow, these group, they think we can't beat them. And I think it kind of fueled our guys a little bit, but two unbelievable teams. I mean, being on the bench, both games were fun. It came down to one little play every shift. And it was, they were fighting for inches, which is great. That's what you want as a coach. And two unbelievable playoff games, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. And I think that the regular season game, just that 1 goal, one way, it was just you couldn't write a game like that up any better. And as your guys were leaving, because you guys were hopping on the bus right after that, they were saying that we're going to get these guys at Plymouth State. So they kind of knew that the fates were aligned for those two teams.
Yeah, and I just have to say something about like the way our league, that the league has been doing things every year. We talk about to our players improving 1% every day. I feel like our league, the Eastern Hockey League, is really doing that as well with all the stuff, the landscape shifts in junior hockey going on and things like that. I mean, just take a look at that. I mean, our regional final games were being played on a Division III nationally ranked team's campus. I mean, we talk about teams and what the teams do and what the coaches do, but look what the league, look at the things that the leagues are doing. The league is doing, providing for our players is remarkable. No other junior league in the country does things like that. So, the great thing is I feel like that, the league office continues to try to find ways to separate our league from the pack. Again, we talk about how do our players separate themselves from other players. Well, how is our league separating itself from other leagues? And I think things like that, playing games on college campuses and playoffs, is remarkable. Our all-star team playing college teams on college venues, how much better can you get than that, in my opinion?
Yeah, and you were part of that this year. It was one of the best parts of the whole season was that win over Elmira College. I mean, they were a top 10 ranked team at that time. It was the first time an EHL All-Star team had done that in a year where there were a ton of question marks around, what league is going to be the league.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just answers the questions, with the landscape shift going on. Well, does this league or, does this team have players good enough to play at those kind of levels? Well, we did. and we showed it by beating those teams and having close games with other teams. So I think year after year we just continue to take the steps in the right direction to show where our league is at in terms of in the college hockey process.
Yeah, I mean the league shrinks by 4 teams and the commitment rate stays the exact same, if not went up a little bit. So I mean that again, all the data is right there.
Yep.
And more on ice stuff. Just another rival. I'm sure you are very familiar with the New England Wolves. Have some battles up in Laconia and Hooksett. I mean, it's one of the best games you can get to all season. That's who you're opening the season up against, the New England Wolves. So do you feel like that's a perfect test for you guys, especially after this past season? 3 wins for each team apiece,
Yep.
this year.
I think it's great. I think they're in our division, though they're big games, obviously. Where versus like Walpole, we only play them 2 or 3 times. We play the Wolves a number of times in our rink and theirs. They have a tough barn to play in. And I think that, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good in division competition for us. Yeah.
And as far as some of the individual guys go from this past season, you had the defenseman of the year, Grant Burback, who was an all-star as well, part of the team that beat Keene State. So he spent a year in the league, got a great commitment. So what can another defender learn from what Grant Burback was able to do in just 1 year in the EHL?
Yeah, Grant just, first of all, he's an outstanding human being. I mean, he's just very respectful. He's coachable. He does all the things the right way. Is he perfect? No, of course he's not. No player is, but no coach is either. But he shows up every day. He goes to work. His practice habits are the same every day. He takes the gym serious. He takes nutrition and eating things that he puts in his body. He takes that very serious, and it showed, right? I think Grant plays the college hockey style game, which is a very mobile defenseman. He's a puck mover, and he joins rushes really well. I think he's going to have a lot of success at the D3 level. It's going to be great to see him this year in terms of being in that setting. But for the defenseman coming out, you got to do everything now. You got to be a stick to puck, body to body player, but you also have to be mobile. And transition has to be, right on key. You have to get pucks up ice. The more turnovers you make, the harder you make it for your team. And what Grant was really good at was getting pucks north. I think he's just going to be really successful at the next level because of that.
Yeah. And you've talked about how you like to build your teams from the blue line out. So this year had a good mix of size. Dan and Kuba, obviously bigger guys, and then smaller, more mobile guys. Burback, not a huge guy. Sebastian Rogel's not a huge guy. Ethan Audie, not a huge guy, but they all can move exceptionally well. So given how successful this past year's D-Corps was, how much do you think that influenced this recruiting season's choices for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of similar, in that way. We got Ethan Audie back. Obviously, he's committed to Castleton already, so he's going to play his age out year to develop a little bit more. But we also got Brody Andriol back as well. Like everybody forgets Brody just because he got mono last year in December. He was an everyday defenseman for us, and he missed the entire season because he couldn't recover from mono. And we got him back as well. He's not a big guy either. But we got Luke Klarner coming in, who played on Vermont last year. He was at KUA. He's almost like a Ryan Dan. He's a big 6'1" kid that can play and skate. Cook Evans, another good defenseman that we brought in from Vermont as well, who we're looking forward to adding to that, as well as the Valentini kid who was on the Wolves. We think these are all good additions, and we have another good veteran core. But we also added, Luke Hebert, who played U18 last year. We added Kellen Briscoe, who played U18. We added some guys that we really think are going to come in and challenge. Mason Scanlon, a big 6'3" defenseman, played at Tilton. So we think we also added some more size than we had last year. But yet we still have that mobile Ethan Audie, Brody Andriol type defenseman as well. So we think we have a good mix again this year.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing it for sure. And at forward, there's a lot to be excited about. 3 of your top 4 scorers are back. We mentioned them earlier: Ryan O'Leary, Ben Carfora, Danny Starella. So how comfortable are you, given that 2 of those guys were newcomers to the program last year, that in the top end of your forward group for this upcoming season?
Yeah, I think it's obviously great. I think each one of those guys had 60 points apiece, and they killed it in the playoffs. In my opinion, they were the best line in the whole playoffs. Whether we won or not, I think they were the most offensive line in the entire playoffs, and they just did a great job. And I think we have a good supporting cast. We brought some veteran guys in as well as some new guys, including 2007's. One kid played on our U18 team last year, Casey Fuller. So we feel that we have a good surrounding cast where they can set the tone as our returning veteran forwards. But you also got to remember, Corey Alissi was very, very good in playoffs last year. He was a kid that, if I can say, he was one of the most improved offensive players for us throughout the year. He got hurt a little bit, but then he came on strong in the second half. Noah Rogers, we're going to expect a big year from the big guy there up the middle. And I think a little dark horse too was Alex Rabakovic.
Yeah, he was awesome. He was
awesome, and he trained with me all summer long with our Super Skills company, and he was on the ice with us 2-3 days a week, and I think his game is even elevated even more. So I think you're going to see a lot of really big things from him. And then just bringing some other guys in. We got Ice and Knee. We got the knee kid from South Shore Kings Premier team, who's one of their best players on the Premier level. He had some injury issues and stuff throughout the year, but he's a big time player. We believe a lot of speed, and the Lawrence and Bernston, two veterans in the EHL that I think are just going to be fantastic additions as well. So we try to build from the back end, but up front is important. You got to score goals to win too. Right. So we hope that we're going to defend well and score enough to keep our tradition going.
Yeah, and as far as the guys that you're bringing in, guys like a Gavin Burson and a Colden Lawrence and Cook Evans, all those guys, like they're bringing in juniors experience from this league. You have a couple guys from that South Shore team from elsewhere. So was that something that was a little different for you this year, bringing in guys with some prior juniors experience? I feel like that more this year than ever in my 4 years in the league. For your
Yeah, I agree. And the way we looked at it with this year was, if we can get more. We lost a lot of veterans last year, obviously, especially on the back end. So bringing the Smith kid in, the Smith kid from South Shore, bringing a kid like that in who played at a pretty good level, and he's going to be ready to step in right away and play. You know what I mean? So it's important that when we recruit to replace, right? So the way we looked at it, especially on the back end, was we lost a lot of good vet Kuba, Rogels, who was unbelievable for us last year, Burback, Ryan Dan. You're talking, we lost a good top four, top five guys on any team in a lot of the leagues. So we had to replace them with guys that can eat minutes like them and do the things like them. And we feel we did that by going out and finding veteran guys, junior veteran guys that can come in and eat minutes. Because that's very important for us, is we want guys that are going to come in and put it all on the line right away that our younger guys can learn from.
Yeah, and you look at a guy like Gavin Burnson. It's going to be his 4th year in the league. He's come close to a championship before, had a good run with Vermont last year. Like, he's going to be a hungry player to try to go the distance this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a sneaky good pickup for us. Like, absolutely. I think he's got some skill. He competes. We think we can. We did a lot of video on all our guys coming in, especially the veteran guys. So we know places that we need to work with them right away. And we're going to work on Gavin's play away from the puck, because we think that that's going to make him even better. But I agree. I think a guy like that, with all his experience, is going to just help us, right? And no different with the other guys, Lawrence and Klarner and Evans, like their experience. I mean, Evans was in the All-Star game, right? So those guys are really going to elevate us, I believe. And they've already, we've. One thing about our program is, once they sign, we're on a group chat together. We're doing our summer workout program that has to be player entered, so we can follow their progress. Klarner's been named an assistant captain for us, and he hasn't even taken the ice on our team because his leadership skills have just been fantastic. I think that it's a good group of guys to bring in that are just going to only make us that much better on and off the ice.
100%. And outside us, I know there's definitely one other person who's super excited about the upcoming year. He's posted about it on Instagram, is your son Kyle, or Cheese as he's nicknamed by the boys. So he got to be around the team a ton this year. We got to hang out with him in Philly. I am sure the boys obviously loved having him around, but for you,
Yep.
how special was it to have him back in his element at the rink with you guys, and making some roster decisions too, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle is the salt of the earth. I mean, he's gone through some rough stuff. As everyone knows, he does have autism, but he's also battled mental health issues as well, where he was hospitalized for about 3 months, about 90 days. And when he got out and came home, he struggled to get back into the rink. And we think it's just that it was just too much for his anxiety and things like that. So, the people that know Kyle know how obsessed he is with hockey, how much hockey knowledge this young man has. He did play hockey. He played junior games for me, to be honest with you, when I was in Hartford. So he's played the game. He's watched the game. He watches NHL Network on repeat all day long. He knows everything about almost every player in the NHL, but he also knows that stuff about junior hockey and the EHL and things like that. So for him to be back to where he's going on bus trips and he's going to showcases and he's going in the locker room with the guys, he's back in his element. And his mom and I couldn't be more proud. His grandparents as well. He has an unbelievable support staff with all of us. His siblings, obviously, as well. He's got 4 brothers and sisters as well. So, I think that he's really to watch. It makes you appreciate life a lot more when you see a young man and his struggles, and then he accomplishes great things. And the fact that he's back at it, back in the rink, he comes to practices now. He was here recently he went to the Chowder Cup, our summer event that we take the team to. So now the fact that he is comfortable again with being around the rink and being, around a lot of different people that he doesn't know and not overly comfortable with, the fact that he knows he can do it now, he's conquered it. Now he's Dad, I'm not going to miss a game this year, Dad. So it's unbelievable. I guess like he's my unofficial assistant GM, if you will, right?
Yes.
So and it's perfect. And we couldn't be more proud of him. We love him, and we're just so happy that he's happy.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad to have met him this year. I mean, it was great having him around. I mean, he was with us in the back room at Philly pretty much the whole time. It was great. And, one final question. I know your Premier coach, Josh Borden, is super excited about this upcoming year, texted me about some of the guys that he had recruited and some of the guys that I know from just working high school hockey and stuff. What is your favorite thing about working with Coach Josh Borden?
Josh is hysterical. He's always one of those guys that keeps things pretty chipper. He throws out a joke here and there when things kind of get tight, and so it was crazy. He coached Laconia Leafs way back, and then I moved to New Hampshire 10 years later, and he happened to live right across the street. So it was kind of crazy how we reconnected. We've become friends. Our daughters hang out and stuff together, and we got kids of the same age, and just kind of having him around has been really good. He works very hard. He's constantly on the phones trying to recruit, and I think he's assembled a pretty good team this year. And I couldn't be more thankful to have somebody as dedicated as him, as an assistant coach and running our Premier and our U18 program as well. I couldn't be more thankful because, you're only as good as your staff, right? So the better guys you have surrounding, with him and our full-time strength coach, Justin Soriel, who played in the American League for 7 years and played in the OHL for Petersboro. We feel like we have a really, really, really good staff, but Josh keeps things entertained. I mean, he's entertaining and he's very, very dedicated and loyal and works very hard for our organization and for his players.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely the pinnacle of this league, New Hampshire Avalanche. So we thank you for taking the time here today, Chris. Looking forward to another season with you, Josh, Cheeser, and everybody in that building. So
can't wait.
Good luck with everything and enjoy the start of camp.
Well, can't wait. We'll talk soon.
Thanks for listening to The E Show, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Learn more about us at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on all of your favorite social media platforms. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when our next podcast episode is released.